All right, so it seems that I have officially made it onto Antifa's watch list or onto their radar because this guy, Sarlacc Attack, who people are telling me that he's part of Antifa, and I was looking over his timeline, and it seems that he retweets a lot of Antifa things. But his whole entire shtick is that he basically slanders and lies about conservatives and even libertarians like Gavin McInnes, calling them white nationalist extremists and stuff like that. And then he sends stuff to the ADL and the SPLC and tries to basically destroy people's reputations and names. Really, really awesome life this guy must have. And you see here he's retweeting anti-fascist archivist talking about how the chairman of Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, is an extremist, and oh yeah, he's giving the white supremacist hand gesture and stuff like that. This guy's whole entire thing is to basically slander and lie about conservatives and libertarians, and basically people who aren't complete leftists, I guess. And yeah, their whole thing is like trying to dox people and stuff like that. And they've attacked me now, and I'm not too worried about it. When I was a total libertarian in 2016, I went to a Trump rally and I was featured in the news and stuff like that, and they were trying to call me a white nationalist and stuff like that. And most people, most normal people, don't take this stuff seriously, and these terms are so overused that nobody really believes in them and stuff like that. But there are still normies who just see people being called a white nationalist and white supremacist, and they just take it at face value. So I am going to rebuttal the things that he said about me because they're completely not true, and all he's doing is blatantly lying or taking things out of context or taking jokes and ironic comments that I made and taking them at face value and taking them as genuine and authentic. So we're going to go through the thread that he made about me. He did a lot of in-depth research about me, and we're going to rebuttal all of the nonsense that he's saying. So it starts off with during CPAC 2021, Republican Matt Gaetz had a photo op with Spexo, a white nationalist social media influencer from New York State who attended the openly fascist America First Political Action Conference organized by fellow white nationalist Nick Fuentes. All right, so first of all, I'm not a white nationalist. If you go to any of my videos or know anything about me whatsoever, in the first video I uploaded when I really started getting active in making videos about politics and stuff like that, I did this hour and 48 minutes video called My Political and Spiritual Journey So Far, and I explicitly state I am not a white nationalist, and I give multiple reasons why. And the reasons why were, besides the DOJ and all these people labeling people that claim to be white nationalists as terrorists, it's not my ideology. I explained it in the video I just did with Jordan yesterday, saying that I am not an ethno-nationalist, but I'm also not a civic nationalist. There's a line where you can understand that demographics matter and demographics are destiny and reality, and understand that there is a coordinated attack against white people, but that doesn't mean that I only want a white country and whites only and stuff like that. That is complete slander, and I'm definitely not a white supremacist. I don't think that white people are superior to other races just because they're white. I do believe that every race has uniqueness and distinctions, and I think that every race, including white people, but also including black people and Asians, has the right to self-determination and to advocate for their in-group interests. That's basically what my stance has been, and I also am for complete freedom of association. I'm not for forced segregation or separation or anything like that. And I've also stated multiple times that I've accepted that we're going to live in a multiracial society, but in order for that to happen, we need to have everybody be treated with respect and dignity and not have these double standards when it comes to white people. Also, he calls me an influencer, which I am not an influencer at all, but I appreciate the time. But it seems what he's doing is he's trying to label me a white nationalist, white supremacist, all this stuff, because I have a picture with cartoon face Matt Gaetz, and they're trying to make Matt Gaetz disavow America First, I guess. And yeah, there's me with 20% Mexican, 2% black, white supremacist Nick Fuentes. But it's also tiresome. So then he says Gates even gave a shout out to Spexo and other fascists affiliated with Fuentes when they managed to sneak into CPAC despite conference security and the American Conservative Union nominally banning their entry. All right, so I mean, this is just funny, and they did this. Somebody else posted this as well a while ago, or a couple days ago. Somebody posted this exact video, and they said white supremacists harass Matt Gaetz, and the guy talking, Jordan, is black. So now they switched it to fascist. So am I a white nationalist, a white supremacist, a fascist? What am I? So I apparently, according to these people, I hate black people, right? But I'm hanging out with a bunch of black people, and but the black people I hang out with are fascists, so they're no good. It's just complete nonsense. Then he goes on, he goes, Spexo's political perspective, he emphasizes with Hitler and believes he had just cause to crack down on international Jewry for disrupting the German economy and for disproportionately encouraging homosexuality, pornography, and child prostitution. That is not what I said, and we're going to watch this entire video. I know this is from last year, so I know some of you weren't following, a lot of you weren't following me. This video only has like 200 views, I think, on my channel. But this video I made about Hitler, and the entire point of the video was that there is no sense in bringing up Hitler in political conversations or trying to tell people alternative theories about Hitler or anything like that, because it's not going to get anywhere. Ironically, this was what the video was about, and he takes it as that I'm empathizing with Hitler, when in the video I say that I am not giving my opinion. I am not saying whether he was right or wrong. I'm just giving certain facts that nobody ever wants to talk about. But the entire point of the video is that you cannot have nuance or pragmatism when talking about Hitler, because you cannot separate the policies he enacted and the statesman from the atrocities that he committed. And I said that it's kind of hypocritical because you can talk about Stalin and Mao and all these other people, Genghis Khan, and you can separate their wartime strategy or their political aspirations and all the policies that they tried to implement, and you could separate that from the atrocities and genocides and mass murders that they also committed. They probably couldn't, I guess they couldn't understand that, but the video shows that I am not empathizing or saying that Hitler was right or anything like that. And also, I said that I was giving the reason that Hitler thought that he was doing. I wasn't saying that he was correct. I was saying that Hitler blamed Jews because he said that they were disproportionately negatively influencing and disrupting German culture and social fabric. Which, by the way, this was way before I was even part of America First, and this was just a random video I was doing. And it's just ironic because they're basically trying to say that I'm like pro-Hitler by showing a video where I'm explicitly talking about why you shouldn't ever even talk about Hitler, because you can't even have a serious adult conversation without people calling you a white supremacist or a white nationalist. So let's watch this.
So there's no indication that he wanted to take over the world. Everything, all of his invasions and expansionist projects were to try and reestablish historical ethnic German people, the ethnic German nation. There's also no proof or evidence at all, even circumstantial, that suggests that Hitler wanted to genocide every other race. In fact, it's kind of the opposite. He talked about wanting a coalition of different nationalist nations. Also, maybe when the war started, we're not going to talk about that, maybe when the war started he changed his mind or something, I don't know, but before that, it wasn't about genociding the Jews. But there was a lot of anti-Jewish sentiment in Germany because after World War I, which there was a lot of conspiracy theories that international Jewish bankers were responsible for getting America into the war against Germany when Germany was on the verge of winning the war. And then afterwards, they got raped in the Treaty of Versailles. And then the Weimar Republic came, and it was just filled with decadence and degeneracy, and they were in massive amounts of debt. And in almost every facet of power and influence that was promoting and propagate these degenerate things, especially in the Weimar Republic, where the pornography scene was out of control, prostitution was running rampant, you had mother and daughter teams on the streets, children, bestiality, all this degenerate, disgusting stuff. There was a lot of overrepresentation of Jewish people in these places. So what Hitler wanted to do, whether right or wrong, I'm not giving any opinion on this.
Wait, hold on, let's watch that. What did I say?
Whether right or wrong, I'm not giving any opinion on this. So what Hitler wanted to do, whether right or wrong, I'm not giving any opinion on this whatsoever.
I'm not giving any opinion on this whatsoever. I'm literally just stating facts. But okay, let's go.
Hitler wanted to nationalize all of these systems of media and influence, and he wanted to push out the Jewish influence. And he wanted to do this because Jews were only 2% of the population or less, and they were controlling a insane amount of power and influence. So he stopped letting Jews have that power. He nationalized the money. He decentralized the banks. He made usury illegal. And naturally, a lot of Jewish people did not like this because they were being persecuted, which they were. And
oh, wait, so I'm admitting that Jews were being persecuted, and I'm literally saying that I'm not giving an opinion on this. I'm just stating what is happening, but this means that I'm empathizing with Hitler.
International Jewry declared war on Germany, and they had boycotts against them. And
True. I don't remember the exact date. I think it was like in 1933 or 34. Um, I wasn't saying international Jewry as like a dog whistle or whatever. It was like the Jewish World Organization, whatever it's called, declared an international Jewish boycott against German goods. That is like literally a fact that you can look up. I'm not implying or giving any type of opinion based on that. I'm simply stating what happened. And this video is probably a mistake to make because if you watch the full video is like 15 minutes long. You'll see that I literally am saying from the beginning that this is the type of stuff that you can never talk about or have a serious conversation with, because once you say that Hitler is anything but the epitome of evil, the personification of Satan, once you say anything like that, then you are automatically labeled a white supremacist, a white nationalist, an anti-Semite. You want to kill everybody who's non-white. All this stuff, it's absolutely nonsense, and it's blatantly slander. But I think that anybody with above room temperature IQ who actually goes and looks into my videos and sees where my standpoints are will see that this is complete nonsense. But it does kind of suck that this is getting so much attention. It has like 406 likes, 251 retweets. Really, really annoying. But all right, hold on. Let's continue.
International Jewry declared war on Germany, and they had boycotts against them. And, there's other stuff that happened or whatever, but that's basically the main gist of it. There was no talk about genociding or killing the Jews.
Right, that's absolutely true, and I'm talking about before the war. There is no evidence or ever talking about like we're going to have a systematic mass murder operation against Jews. And I even said I'm talking about before the war. I didn't even get into what happened during the war. I'm talking about German policies and what happened in Germany before the start of World War II. And I said that he didn't want he never had any plan of world domination like people want to say, like, oh, Hitler wanted to take over the world and stuff like that. All of the areas that he wanted to reestablished were historically ethnic German land, and he wanted basically the greater Germany to come together. It says during the clip, Spexo falsely claimed Hitler only wanted to regain the territory Germany ceded following World War I to save persecuted Germans. The Nazis invaded territory far beyond Germany's pre-World War I borders. Nazis invaded France, Libya, and the USSR, among other nations. Yes, that was after the war, and they did that for strategic military purposes. I'm not I'm not saying whether any of that is right or wrong. I'm not giving an opinion, but he wasn't trying to fucking colonize Libya and turn Libya into Germany. He was doing that. He was doing these things in strategic military combat situations or whatever for World War II. Right? He wasn't trying to take over these other countries. I was specifically talking about I can't even think about what the Austria, who voted to come back into Germany, and all these other ethnic German places. Hitler's security service, called the Einsatzgruppen, murdered thousands of Soviet and Polish Jews, leftists, and Roma by firing squad. Hitler's war of annihilation culminated in the Nazis starving 1.1 million civilians to death in their 1941 siege of St. Petersburg. Okay, I had never said that that didn't happen or anything like that. The whole video takes place pretty much before the war and just says what his ultimate goal was beginning. As expected, Spexo doubts the number of Jews killed in the Holocaust and implies that Jewish influence forces the world to pay undue attention to the genocide of European Jewry. No, that is. I'm gonna watch this. I don't even remember what this part was. But that is not. I did not doubt. I think. Oh, I made a joke. Of because just to basically be provocative and get people mad because I said you'll just watch it.
When it comes to Hitler, you can have no nuance whatsoever. It's either he is completely a horrible human being or you're a neo-Nazi and the epitome of evil. And this, of course, is because Hitler is responsible for killing 6 million Sri Lankans. Oh no, Jews. Sorry, that's what I meant. And I know there's like debate on that number and stuff like that. Some people say it's 6 million. Other people say that one of the Jews was a midget, so it's probably more like 5,999,999 and a half Jews. I'm agnostic on the whole situation. I don't want to get in trouble, but we're gonna push that part aside for the moment. When it comes to
how do you watch that and not think that's funny? These people have no sense of humor. Like, do you think that I really thought that Hitler was responsible for killing Sri Lankans too? Is that what you think? Like, oh, I mistaked I mistaked. I mistaken. I thought that the Sri Lankans were the ones that were genocide, not the Jews. Like, and do you think that I was being serious with like, oh no, exactly 6 million, but one of them could have been a midget? Like, how fucking stupid are you? Like, you are reality manipulators. You're trying to take clearly joking and ironic humor seriously and genuinely to try and slander me. And ultimately, Matt Gaetz and whoever else, Paul Gosar, I think you posted a picture of him. Republican Gaetz previously acquainted himself with Holocaust deniers like Chuck C. Johnson, who in May 2018 contributed $25,000 to the Florida Conservative Fund, a super PAC exclusively benefiting Gaetz. Gaetz, in fact, invited Johnson to Trump's State of the Union address in January 2018. I don't know. I guess this is a ADL thing. Okay, so it's basically an ADL. Somebody's sending a. Let me see. Okay, so the ADL is sending a letter to Matt Gaetz that he's associating with Holocaust deniers, and that's just the ADL can't accept that. Spexo, who brags about his over 100K a year salary and Nordic features, considers electoral democracy a failure. True. Women and the poor especially do not deserve the franchise. The franchise of what? Electoral democracy? I don't think I ever said anything about poor people, and I said that people say that we should abolish the 19th Amendment, but we shouldn't have any type of democracy whatsoever. And obviously this was before I was big into America First or whatever, and I was just talking about like hypothetical if I had my way. And I said, let's see, what did it say? He regards universal suffrage as Judeo-Marxist nonsense, while egalitarianism is complete Marxist nonsense. And you could even look at Dennis Prager, who said that Jewish people were heavily involved in Marxism, and once they lost their religiosity from Judaism, they started making new ideologies that were basically secular form of Judaism, and one of those were Marxism and communism and socialism and all that stuff. So Judeo-Marxist, I don't see why that's a controversial subject. I'm obviously not saying that all Jews are Marxist or anything like that, but so yeah, universal suffrage as Judeo-Marxist nonsense, true. While monarchy is the best political system, also true, and God believes that too. Christ is King of Kings, right? He's not the CEO of CEOs. He's not the president of presidents. Christ is King of Kings. Heaven is hierarchical, and we're supposed to have earth as it is in heaven. And we had monarchies for thousands of years before this nonsense of liberty and human rights and all that nonsense. So, yeah, I stand by pretty much everything in this, but let's see what this video is.
Now, women have an ultimate say in how the country is going to be run. And
horrible.
Clearly, that hasn't paid off. And people like to say, well, we need to repeal the 19th Amendment, which, yeah, definitely, because women shouldn't vote, but more so than that, nobody should vote. Voting is fake and gay. So
true.
now
So true.
You have basically universal suffrage, which means that as long as you're a citizen, and even non-citizens get away with it now, as long as you're a citizen, you have a right to vote. White, black, men, women, transgender, anything. We have universal suffrage. So what does that do? That puts all of these different groups with different interests against each other.
Facts.
So now it's basically just a matter of pandering to the lowest common denominator and pitting them against the other population. And we're supposed to be a unified country, the United States of America, when the entire foundation of our political system is pinning people against each other. And it's literally cultural Marxism, basically, because it operates on this sense of impossible egalitarianism, that everybody is equal and everybody deserves the same exact right. Which, how is that fair? How is it fair that a married doctor with 4 kids who went to college for 8 years and contributes such a large amount to his community and is a great person, his vote matters just as much as an 18-year-old heroin-addicted crack whore? It is Judeo-Marxist nonsense. If it was up to me, nobody would vote, ever, including myself. And I'm 6'5" with 132 IQ, and I'm Nordic as fuck. So I'm like in the top 2%, maybe top 1% of natural physical and intellectual capability. Not bragging, just truth. I mean, I could get in better shape, but just my natural baseline, being 6'5" and having 132 IQ, means that my capabilities are naturally far superior than the vast majority of the rest of the world. We should have a monarchy. Monarchies are the only legitimate form of government, in my opinion, and they were sustained for 2,000 years or more. Even if you go back to ancient Egypt times when they had emperors and pharaohs and things of that nature, those were technically forms of monarchies. And they only really started to get abolished after the nightmare that was the French Revolution and the Enlightenment era and all of that stuff, where they started going against the established order of monarchies.
I stand by pretty much every single thing that I said in that video. And I'm watching, I'm like, wow, this kid is based. I haven't watched that video in a real long time. I should go back and watch my videos because I said a lot of good things in that video. I think that's very red pilling. I'm wondering if like these anti-fascist people, probably not because they're so like mentally diluted, but I think that that'd be funny if like people like were watching this like and be like, who is this white nationalist, white supremacist, and then they're watching this and they're like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. But I don't even remember everything that I said in this. Oh, the whole Nordic thing. I'm obviously being tongue in cheek. I am proud of my heritage and stuff like that, and also being the top 2% of the population. I wasn't saying that as like, oh, I should be superior over everybody. I was saying as a legitimate form. I'm 6'5", and I'm naturally intelligent, which is more than a lot of people can say. And I was bragging, but it is 100% true, right? So, and I'm saying that even the whole point of me saying that was to say that even people who are geniuses, not saying I'm a genius, I'm gifted, I'm like borderline genius, but even people that are geniuses, even people that are physical specimens and in the best shape and super athletic and all of these people, even they should not vote, in my opinion. I think that democracy in general is garbage. Now, in terms of America First and my association with it, obviously that's not America First's stance right now or whatever. And I stand by whatever America First and whatever Nick says, but this was my opinion before I was associated with America First. And I'm not crazy about democracy. I understand that it's unrealistic to think that we could ever really get rid of it at this point, but I was just giving my opinion and a criticism of democracy. And I don't think I said anything really controversial or wrong. Controversial is subjective, but I don't think I said anything wrong. Here, Spexo cites a neo-Nazi YouTuber. They love that word. They just call everybody a neo-Nazi. They don't say what his credentials are. They don't say anything like that. They just call him a neo-Nazi. And if somebody's labeled a neo-Nazi, that means that you can't associate with them, that they're just horrible people. So here, Spexo cites a neo-Nazi YouTuber to prove his point that black people were better off under slavery compared to post-abolition. Not what I was saying at all. Black people should therefore pay white people reparations for giving them shelter, food, and the best medical care in the world under slavery. Well, there is some truth to that, but this was still an ironic, semi-ironic thing. This is on my Telegram. You can go watch this. But the reason that I posted this was because people were talking about how black people need reparations and how white people are inherently evil and they're responsible for slavery and stuff like that. And my point basically was that we didn't start slavery. We basically ended slavery, and we got slaves. Europeans got slaves from Africa, from other Africans or Arabs who were treating their slaves horribly, right? And if they couldn't sell the slaves, sometimes they would just kill them. They were living in horrible conditions. And basically, we brought slaves over to the New World, to America. And for the most part, obviously, there were exceptions, but for the most part, they were treated far better than they would have in their homeland. I don't think that's really controversial or wrong to say. Obviously, there's always going to be exceptions, but for the most part, slaves were given food and shelter and just expected to work. And most of the time, they weren't even working more than peasant whites. Only like 3% of the population, I think. I could be wrong about that. I think only like 3% of the population owned slaves. And like I said, they had there was the two-parent household, the literacy rate, church attendance, all of these things, Christianity among black people was higher under slavery and under Jim Crow than it is now. And I explicitly stated that that doesn't mean that I want to go back to any of that things. And I said in the beginning of this, I said, I'm obviously not advocating for race-based slave labor. Besides the obvious moral reasons to be against it, the long-term economic and cultural effects of slavery and its abolition have been a nightmare. That's basically like my opening statement. So I'm obviously not advocating for slavery or Jim Crow or anything like that. The reason that I stated these things was to show that if all of these facts about black people under slavery, where they had higher literacy rates, they were attending church more often, they had more two-parent households, they were more Christian, they were more family-oriented under slavery and under Jim Crow, clearly what we are doing right now is not working. Right? If those conditions, not all conditions, but if those conditions, if those facts, those statistics were better under slavery and under Jim Crow, then clearly whatever we're doing now, where we're just white people are evil, and you can never talk about any type of any black problems or anything like that in the black community. You can only talk about whites. That was basically my standpoint on this, is that what we're doing now is not working. Um, what else? Oh, and as for giving whites reparations, that was tongue in cheek. I don't really believe in reparations whatsoever. People like these people don't understand like irony, and maybe it's my fault because I have also a very dry sense of humor, and also it's hard to determine satire and irony through text-based mediums. But also these people are just liars and slanderers, so it wouldn't matter anyway. But it basically was saying that we we gave slaves a better life than they would have had anywhere else. They probably would have died in their homelands, or been under horrible conditions. And then once you have these facts, and then you take into consideration the economic, social, and cultural impacts that slavery and its abolition had, it's clear that the negative consequences for white Americans objectively far outweigh the negative consequences for black Americans. Therefore, I am in favor of reparations. Black people owe us a lot of money. Obviously, I'm joking, but there is some truth to it. Um, look at where we are now, where we have a new caste system in America, and black people are higher than white people. Black people are in naturally better positions than white people right now. We're told the opposite. We're told that police are just killing black people at will, and we're told that white people are just, that we have white privilege and all this stuff. But white people are told we're inherently evil. We can't be proud of our heritage. We can't advocate for our in-group interests. Meanwhile, black people have multiple organizations, multiple government policies that specifically benefit them only for being black, where white people don't have that. So they're systematically higher up on the caste system. There is systematic racism. It's just systematic racism against white people, and I'll always stand by that. Systematic racism against white people includes like affirmative action, diversity quotas, hate speech laws that disproportionately negatively affect white people. So, yeah, like I said, some of this was tongue in cheek, but there's a lot of truth to it. All right. Accounts from the actual enslaved people, like Solomon Northup in his memoir, 12 Years a Slave. Oh, give me a break. Attest to the brutality black people endured. Slaves regularly were starved, whipped, and subject to torturous medical experience for white people. Okay, this is one guy's memoir, and it was made into a famous movie. And I'm not even doubting the authenticity. I don't know. I don't think there's really any way to tell. But if you actually think that black people were just on a regular basis starved and beaten and tortured for medical experience because of white people, so I like how he can just generalize white people as well. And that's not racist. That's not anything, of course, right? The hypocrisy, the double standards. But if you actually think that black people were just tortured when they were slaves, then you're just really dumb. Honestly, black people were seen under slavery as tools, basically, right? And yeah, some slave owners were nicer and kinder than others, and some slave owners would punish slaves who disobeyed or did something wrong more severely, honestly. But slaves were a lot of money, and if they couldn't work and they were physically unable to accomplish their tasks, then that meant that they couldn't be profited off of, which was the ultimate goal of slavery for the most part. Obviously, you had other slaves that were like house slaves and stuff like that, but like to think that people were just buying slaves like in Django Unchained, and plantation owners were buying slaves just to fight them against each other, that never happened. That is complete nonsense. And if it did, it was a very like 0.00001% of anything like that, because that is so obnoxiously rare that it makes no sense. These people, the whole point of slavery was to economically and monetarily benefit off of them. So to think that we're going to torture these, it's like having, this is what's the word I'm looking for? Um, an unkind comparison or whatever, but I'm just saying from their perspective, insensitive. All right, maybe this is insensitive, but they looked at black people like tools, like I said, right? Which is wrong. I do not look at black people like tools, but that's what they did back then when they had slaves. So it's basically like having a lawnmower, and every time that it runs out of gas or something like that, you like hit it with a hammer and a piece breaks off and now it's not working as good. Why? You're obviously not going to do that because you want it to work, right? Maybe that's a poor analogy, but that's my point. Like, why would you purposely try to make it so that your slave does less work, or that your slave keeps trying to run away because it's afraid of you, if the whole purpose of having that slave is to work and make you money. Obviously, there were exceptions. Like I was reading the story about this really rich woman who basically would buy slaves just to like keep in her attic and like kill them. But that's like some psycho nonsense. That's not like an average happening, you know? All right. Despite Spexo's white supremacist views, there we go again. Uh, he made many influential friends at AFPAC. I made influential friends because I took a picture with Republican Gosar and Steve King. Okay. Representative, and also like I don't understand, like this is the same thing that they did on Rachel Maddow with Nick Fuentes taking a picture with that girl. Do they think that when you go to any type of event or any public whatever, that and you go up to like a celebrity or a politician or whatever and you say, hey, can I take a picture with you? Do you think they're like, wait a second, I need to see every statement, every political joke you have ever made in your entire life before I can take this picture? No, we took a picture, so we're friends now. Representatives no, Representative Gosar and Steve King gave speeches at the conference and proudly posed for pictures with their fascist fans. Clearly, many GOP politicians sympathize with white nationalism. And then he tags all these people, and some of the comments are pretty funny. You have no life. I guess luckily your globalist capitalist elite masters will pay you to fight the only real threat to their new world order. Can I get a signal boost too, please? I was at AFPAC with Spexo. Would really appreciate the exposure. Thanks, friend. So there are people who know that this is complete nonsense, but if it was something like, I don't care because I've been slandered before, and people who know me and anybody who just watches my videos or knows my content knows that I am not a white nationalist, I am not a white supremacist, and all of this nonsense. But being slandered still sucks. um, and you know, it's just, and a lot of people will still just look at this at face value and accept it as fact, and it kind of sucks. But I thought that I would just rebuttal this because, like I said in my video with Jordan B, we need to stop engaging with these types of people because they're evil reality manipulators. They hate Jesus Christ, they hate white people clearly. And but when they have institutional power, or when they actually pose a serious threat, then we need to call them out for their lies and disingenuine reporting, because this is complete nonsense. Literally, almost every word they said in this hit piece is completely wrong about me, and I mean, it's not really viral or anything like that, but it does have a decent amount of retweets and likes and stuff like that. And normal people, if you go to the quote tweets, I don't know if this Matt Gaetz looks like a failed Mask reboot. And this other jerk off, oh me, is just Seth MacFarlane if you beat him with a sack of doorknobs. That's a very rare insult. I'll give that. That's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. Actually, Seth MacFarlane. He said Seth MacFarlane if you beat him with a sack of doorknobs. It's very specific. I'll take that. That's actually not bad. But yeah, he does look like a mask. He's very unsettling to look at. So yeah, so this guy. Let's see, the read about left's growing obsession with identity politics. Okay. White supremacists are in Congress. See, domestic Matt Gaetz is a domestic terrorist. Hall monitor freaks going after a real American. Oh, based. Who is this? I don't know who that is, but he's sticking up for me. That's cool. Thanks, man. Um, that was mine. Yeah. Okay. Look,
This is like that Louis C.K.
I
joke.
posted this because it's so true. Look,
This is like that Louis C.K. joke where it's like, oh, Christopher Columbus found America, and he went up to the Native Americans and he was like, "Oh, this is India, right?" And they were like, "No, no, we're not Indians." And he's like, "No, no, this is India. You guys are Indians." He's like, "No, that's a totally different place." "No, you guys are Indians. We're just gonna call you Indians from now on. Is that cool?" And they're like, "No, we're not Indians. No, you guys are Indians." That's like us. It's like, "Oh, you guys are white nationalists." No, no, we're not white nationalists. Actually, nah, come on, you're white nationalists. We're just gonna call you white nationalists. No, don't call us white nationalists. We're not. And like the DOJ labels them terrorists and stuff, so we don't want to be called white nationalists. That's not really our ideology anyway. Can you please not call us white nationalists? Nah, you guys are white nationalists. So anyway, this white nationalist event is just so insincere. So true. And that's basically what's happening now. I've repeatedly stated I'm not a white nationalist. They don't care. They know that these buzzwords still hold some type of power, and they just throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. Human skid mark. Matt Gaetz is a white nationalist. Last name Fuentes. What's laughable is white nationalists with Spanish last name. Oh, got him. Florida Representative Matt Gaetz hung out with a white supremacist who was a big fan of Hitler. Why does Matt Gaetz?
Yo, oh, look at this fucking. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's who I want to take political criticism from. This guy looks like he should be criticizing anybody. All of these disgusting, dysgenic, evil people who hate Christ and natural order. Firsthand in his influence video, the crazy of neo Nazis in the US and likely abroad. A great lesson in the value of knowing what you don't know. These people have all their facts wrong, but are so certain of their rightness. Oh, it's all so tiresome. But yeah, so I just wanted to make a video on that and basically clear my name. Not that it matters. Not that anybody's going to take this video seriously. Not that journos are going to be like, "Oh, I was wrong. He's not a white nationalist." Oh, and yeah, I don't think Sarlik Attack is going to be issuing a retraction anytime soon. But I thought that I would talk about this because I thought it was relatively interesting that they find me important enough to go this in depth autistic level of slander basically because they had to go through all my videos. They had to try and get clips to take out of context, and honestly the clips that they showed, I really didn't say anything too bad in those clips that I have to be like, oh no, actually what I meant was like, I think normal people who watch this are like, they, they should be red pilled honestly. But yeah, all right, that's it until next time.